You are welcome to today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman. My name is Fagbeja, and today I'll be reading Ranti's story. My husband and I got married as virgins. We were not particularly young when we got married. I was 31 and he was 34. We were introduced by someone who I consider to be my mentor. She knew I was waiting on God for marriage. Tunde, my husband, was her friend's cousin, and when she heard he was also seeking a partner, she introduced us. We had a couple of phone conversations and then we met up, and we liked each other. It was not a case of passionate chemistry. Rather, we seemed to share a similar outlook to life and similar values, and we thought we could make it work. Neither of us was particularly social. In fact, we were both introverted, and our lifestyles prior to meeting were a triangle of work, home, and church. The intervention of being introduced by someone was very helpful and very necessary in jumpstarting our relationship journey. We got married a year and 2 months after meeting, and we had 2 children in quick successions, a boy first and then a girl. Everything seemed to be going like clockwork, moving according to the schedule we had, and we were happy because it was like compensation for the delays we had experienced. Our son was 3 when something happened that shook our marriage to its very core. He fell ill with malaria that was very severe, and he was placed on admission in the hospital. At some point, he needed a transfusion. Tests were run, and that was when they found out that his blood group was A positive. Both Tunde and I are O positive, so this raised a red flag immediately. They also found out that his genotype was AS. Tunde and I were both AA. The implication of this was that it was impossible for him to have fathered that child. I was away from the hospital when the results came out. I went home to have a shower and to get a few things. When I got back to the hospital, Tunde handed me the report. He did not say a word to me, but he watched as I read it. His eyes were intensely focused on me, as though they were boring through me. He looked at my face for answers, and I had none to offer. I simply stared back at him blankly. Tunde, I don't know what to say. There must be a mix-up somewhere. Our son was in dire need of transfusion, so we paid for blood. But I immediately insisted that they redo the blood tests, and in fact, a paternity test. The blood test results were the same, and when the paternity test results came back weeks later, they showed that it was impossible for Tunde to be our son's father. Tunde was deeply hurt, and he told me that all he needed from me was the truth. I knew he had every right to be angry and hurt, but I had no explanations for him either, and I told him as much. I pleaded with him to believe me, but even I knew that was a tall request. I was as confused as he was. Our son came home from the hospital, and our home became like ghost town. Tunde stopped eating at home and moved to the guest room. I was hurt that he would not believe me, even though I could not explain what was going on. He did not report me to anyone, but I knew it was only a matter of time before our marriage crashed. I spoke to my mentor about it after about 3 months. The only reason she believed me was because she knew me well. In the course of our conversation, she asked me about the DNA results, and I told her we had run a paternity DNA test. It was then she asked why we hadn't run a maternity test as well. It never occurred to me to do so. When I left her house, I went straight back home, picked my son, and we went to drop DNA samples for a test. When the results came back a few weeks later, it was found that I was not his biological mother either. Now, I had another dilemma on my hands, but my first priority was to clear myself with Tunde. It was a weekday, so I dropped the envelope with results on his bed when I got home from work. When he got back, he walked past me as usual and went straight to his room. He came back out with the results in his hand about 10 minutes later. "Ranti, what is this?" I could not answer him. I just burst into tears. "Ranti, is this true?" I nodded my head. He sat down and held his head in his hands. After what seemed like an eternity, he came to sit beside me and said, "Ranti, I'm sorry." I could not stand to be near him at that moment, so I moved to another seat. He kept repeating his apology. Now, I was not only hurt, I was also resentful. I had pleaded with him to believe me, but instead, he abandoned me at the time when I needed him, and now he wanted me to forgive him just like that. I could not trust him either. I understood his angle, but I could not look past the fact that he abandoned me at the critical moment. That means he could have believed anything anyone said about me. I ignored him for the time being. There were other matters to deal with. The next morning, I went to the hospital where I had my son and presented the results to them, demanding an explanation. I could not believe how calm I was, despite the emotions that were raging inside me. I gave them an ultimatum of 2 weeks to give me an answer. The next few months were turbulent. Through the help of our mentors and our pastor, Tunde and I worked through our issue. Of course, it would take time to build our trust back, but at least we set things straight and started our healing journey. The hospital found that our son had been swapped with another baby at birth due to wrong tagging. We met with the other parents, and as difficult as it was, we decided to keep the children we had raised. We took some time to think about it, and we decided that we would be involved in each of our children's lives. We would send monthly updates and keep tabs on how they were doing. Our sons are now 10 years old, and they both know the truth. We are all friends, and we try to keep things as positive as we can. Please share your thoughts about Tunde and Ranti's story in the comments below. Remember to hit that subscribe button and to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my stories.